I think when it comes to why companies should consider bootstrapping is I think it forces you to be not just uncomfortable, but come up with creative ideas of how do we get revenue coming into the company and how's this going to benefit us?
You're listening 15 Minutes Mastery, a show where leading iGaming experts share real, practical insights on growth, strategy, and performance. Stay with us for more expert insights.
My name is John Wright. I'm the CEO and co-founder of StatsDrone. My background in iGaming and affiliate marketing spans 20 years. And today we're talking about social currency and sustainable growth.
How can consistent visibility shape business opportunities?
Good question. In my experience, from being consistent on one channel like LinkedIn has led to a lot of opportunities. So it really comes down to being consistent and trying things. I mean, when you look at a lot of the people that have, not just a good follower base, but also get a lot of reach where you're constantly seeing them show up in your feed, it requires two things. One is consistency, and the other one is kind of like just ideation, trying different things and seeing what works versus what doesn't work.
What strategies help individuals build social currency?
I think the best strategy is to start with one channel and master it rather than trying 5 and then being frustrated that all 5 didn't work at the same time. And it requires an odd amount of patience. Now, you will see people that have basically been able to go from nothing to, let's say, 20,000 followers in a short period of time, which is amazing for them. But I think you need to focus on yourself and say, stack your wins, get a couple followers here and there. And a lot of people that I talk to that have gone through these experiences of building their own social profile, that it can take time. And then as you start compounding things, whether it's, let's say, a YouTube channel, you are creating this content that sits there and keeps collectively adding subscribers over time. So just basically pick one channel, master it, be patient, which I think is what most people don't do. And whether you're creating a newsletter or a social media channel or a podcast, the thing I see as the most common is that most people will do it for the first week or two and they give up. That is basically the only secret. Just do it consistently. Look at your data, of course, and see if you can find opportunities to get better or see what did work versus what didn't work, and just basically iterate.
What common mistakes do people make when building social presence?
I think it's a combination of things. Trying to do too many channels at once will always hurt. And I think a lot of people, they start comparing themselves to other people. And to give you some context of that, it's like people think that they need the best gear. So they end up spending thousands of dollars or euros on the best gear, and then they never even start it. So it's kind of like you can start with anything from your phone, your laptop, it doesn't matter. The real thing is done is better than perfect. And I think a lot of people think that they need perfection to be taken seriously. And what I like to refer to is that look at some of the people that have started from 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Look at where they started from and look at where they are today. You're always going to find people like the Pat Flynn's, where he's got his very first episode and you listen to it and he doesn't sound the same because he's now had 10 plus years to practice his voice and get better at podcasting. But you're always going to find some bad videos, and that's myself included. Some of my first YouTube videos, they're just horrendous, but I kind of wear them with a badge of pride. They're embarrassing for me to watch, but I say, you know what? I'm not deleting it. If someone wants to go watch those things, I don't care. But if they're good, people would watch a lot of them. And that's when you just kind of learn, eventually you get good at these things and you got to start somewhere.
What lessons come from both fundraising and bootstrapping?
It's a good question. When we went down the rabbit hole of fundraising versus bootstrapping, we were already bootstrapping. So we didn't know what it looked like to fundraise. Like, was this going to be easy, difficult? Was it going to open doors? And in my personal experience, I kind of want to say the answer is yes to everything. It was very beneficial to open a network with investing. We got some really good people on our cap table that if we had only stuck with bootstrapping, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to get that direct feedback. And that's been extremely valuable. That I would say, anyone who's looking to kind of pick a lane, whether it's bootstrapping or investing, I still have a preference of what I recommend for others, but I don't want to understate the value of being able to pitch to investors and struggle. Pitching to investors is tough, but you learn a lot of skills from it. You learn sales, you learn a different psychology, You learn a different type of business that is different than trying to just get regular customers to come on board. So my answer is like I'd say both is pretty cool. I don't regret doing the investment on top of bootstrapping, but I know if I had to start all over, I would definitely go a lot harder in bootstrapping, and I would recommend that for anyone.
When should founders raise capital versus stay bootstrapped?
Tough question. Um, I think when it comes to raising capital, like there's multiple reasons for doing it. One is to survive and stay in business, and the other times would be to grow. I think investors, they want to invest in companies more that are in that growth mindset rather than survive. If you need to survive, then you got to open up all the channels. So I wouldn't really advise fully against the company doing that. But I think what you should be doing as a startup founder is you want to be in the mindset of bootstrapping and going, you know what, we want growth. And if that investment money is going to help us grow versus not having that money and not having gone through it, that's really your litmus test of going, when should we consider this? And yeah, if you've got some good advisors, they can actually help you with these decisions, because in a lot of cases, a really good advisor has seen situations like this before, and they could probably help you avoid making a bad decision where you don't want to make costly decisions when it comes to not just raising capital, but maybe giving up too much equity or getting the wrong partner on your cap table.
How does the funding path shape a company's identity?
Some of the companies that I've talked to that have basically not taken on a single investor, they just have amazing everything. Like they've got the bootstrap mentality, and they make their own they make their own journey. Like they're not desperate to say, hey, we need investors to grow. They basically just keep bootstrapping and create their own financial security. It's almost like a lot of investors wish they had the opportunity to put money in these companies, but they're basically saying, we don't need your money and we don't even want it. So, I mean, the trade-off is pretty obvious. Like, you get to keep more of the equity. Maybe for some of the companies, they lose the opportunity to work with really good companies. But anyone that I've seen that's bootstrap, they've just been doing really well. They seem to have the right mindset for knowing what to focus on. It sounds kind of obvious, but just find the companies that have basically publicly stated they've never taken on a single investment dollar. And some of these are some of the biggest companies in the world, and they're very proud that they've never had to rely on investors. And in some cases, investors can be demanding. So some can actually work for you, but some can work against you. So when I see people that have fully bootstrapped, I have a lot of respect for them. And yeah, sometimes I wish we did that, but I also value what we've gained ourselves personally from having done both.
What advantages does bootstrapping give founders?
I think when it comes to why companies should consider bootstrapping is I think it forces you to be not just uncomfortable, but come up with creative ideas of how do we get revenue coming into the company and how's this going to benefit us? So I'll give you a couple examples, and I like using inspiration from a guy, Nathan Latka, who's founded FounderPath. Basically, he was launching a company and he's like, well, I need revenue. And what did he do? He didn't wait for the customers to come to him. He basically said, I'm going to create my own moat and my own marketplace to make these things happen. So he created a podcast. He basically had sponsors on it. So that's bootstrapping revenue. He basically was interviewing a lot of startups. He's basically building his own database. He did everything in an amazing way. And what I think is really cool about his journey is that you can learn from it, but you can't fully copy it one-on-one. Like what he's done, for example, it's not something I can copy, but there's a couple elements I could copy, and I did. So for example, it's like we have a podcast now. So I think that was pretty cool. We're now building another product that's giving us access to a large database, which will both do two things for us: generate more revenue, and it's also going to give us a lot of power when it comes to actually trying to attract our customer. So, I mean, when you start getting in that bootstrap mentality, you think in a different way that forces you to be like, not just resilient, but creative. And I think we're missing that in the world of business. And I think when you have the opportunities for investment or bootstrapping, investments, like you get the money in and then you get to work and you do your growth stuff. With bootstrapping, you're kind of like, I don't really have that budget. So it's like, what am I going to do when I don't have the budget and I need to be creative? I think the pressure to be creative and to make the finances work and to make money out of almost nothing, I think it's really understated. And every time I look at a company, I personally feel like I can actually give them a recipe and going, oh, this is what you do. Well, why don't you do these things? And you don't see a lot of companies doing it except for the really good bootstrap ones.